Paralives just quietly released some news over on their Twitter, and it's probably the news that a lot of you have been waiting for if you've been looking forward to this game releasing in early access. We all probably know by now that Paralives is coming to early access on the 8th of December. That's when it's being released over on Steam. I have made a couple of videos recently going over a lot of the stuff that you might have missed, and also they're basically like create a para tool, which I'm very excited to check out. But this information pertains more to like the game and what you can expect upon release. So they actually gave an update to the Steam page with the minimum system requirements and the recommended system requirements for both PC and Mac. Now, I know some people are disappointed with this. The thing is, I feel like a lot of Sims 4 players, and Sims 4 was made in 2014. That's one of the biggest takeaways we have to remember when it comes to kind of comparing these games and the specs that you need to play them. That came out over a decade ago. This game is coming out in 2025. Yes, some people might not think that the graphics of Paralives kind of add up to these specifications, but this is a much newer game, so obviously it's not gonna run on the stuff that The Sims 4 could run on, because The Sims 4 was made over a decade ago, and since then they have upped their minimum spec. However, The Sims 4 is kind of its own thing where they definitely focus on making that run on older processors and just older specs in general. I still think that the Paralives team have done a really good job here. Don't get me wrong, I do think some people are gonna struggle. I've looked through like a fair amount of the replies over on Twitter, and the two things that people seem to be concerned about are their graphics card and also the RAM, because that is 12 gig of RAM. Some people might not have like built PCs where you can actually like easily take your RAM out and upgrade it. You might be playing on laptops, which always, even if they're gaming laptops, are actually much harder to upgrade. So if you do have a built PC where you can kind of remove the RAM, then you can definitely look at upgrading your RAM. But of course, that can get expensive. So I don't want to just be here to be like, oh, it's easy to upgrade, because I know that that is absolutely not the case for everyone. But for the minimum, they say Windows 10. I've seen a lot of people saying, why is Windows 11 recommended? Again, this is a game built for 2025. They are very much future-proofing this game, and Windows literally just cut support on Windows 10. That means you're not getting security updates. You can still play the game on a Windows 10 PC if your PC still has Windows 10. I am also not the most techie person, so I can't get into kind of all the nitty-gritty, especially when it comes to Mac OS. Just know that even if your stuff doesn't meet the minimum, you could always like purchase this game. You could try and play it. Maybe they'll release like a demo version, not in the sense of like an early demo, because I know they didn't want to take away from the rest of the game, but maybe perhaps I think releasing a demo version could be good purely to see if people can play the game and if they like lower their graphic settings and stuff like that, if it is actually playable. However, Steam also does have a really good refund system. Maybe your PC doesn't meet the hardware requirements, maybe you bought a game by mistake, maybe you played the title for an hour and just didn't like it. Within 2 weeks of purchase and with less than 2 hours of playtime. So if you are picking this up and then you decide within that limited time that this game isn't running well on your PC and you want to get a full refund, make sure you don't go over that 2 hours of playtime. This goes even for early access. Any playtime will count against the 2-hour refund limit. If you pre-purchase a title which is not playable prior to the release date, you can request a refund at any time prior to the release of that title. The standard 14 and 2-hour refund period will apply. So make sure that you don't go over that 2-hour playtime if it's not working well on your PC, and just ask Steam for a refund. They do say if your frame rate is low, lower your graphics settings. There are definitely things that can like play with this. I know a couple of people are disappointed with like the 1060, but then some people have a lower card that is a TI, and TIs usually are more powerful graphics cards. So they actually may be able to work because they're basically like the equivalent of a 1060. And then for the recommended, obviously you have Windows 11, you have 16 gig of RAM over the 12 gig of RAM for the minimum, which I feel like 12 gig is a really bizarre number. I feel like it's usually like 8 gig or 16 gig. So if you're in that 16 gig of RAM, then you're fine. But if you are within that 8 gig range, then your PC might definitely struggle with this. And you also need 8 gig available space. That is pretty much how like big the game is going to be. And then for Apple, you have the same. So this is the OS, the Apple M2 chip for the processor. Again, on Apple, I'm fairly sure there are M1 models that are like a slightly higher power, kind of like the TIs, and therefore they're kind of an equivalent to the M2 processor. And then the recommended is the M3 chip and the 16 gigabytes of RAM. For example, here someone has replied, say, Min is 1060, I have a 1050. Paralives have actually replied and said, should still be able to run on a 1050, but the frame rate may drop under 30 FPS at times. So minimum is for like a standard 30 FPS interaction with the game that hopefully isn't gonna drop for you all that much. Exactly the same with the M1 chip. Definitely just keep in mind that you can refund it, which speaking of refunds, we did also get confirmation of how much the game is going to be. So the price will be $39.99 USD during early access with Steam regional pricing. So that might be about 35 within the UK. We'll just kind of have to see how like Steam works out the difference. I don't know what that's going to be in all different territories. They also haven't kind of confirmed if that price is going to go up once the game is actually out of early access. I definitely feel like it could potentially go up, but you do also have to keep in mind they aren't going with like a traditional DLC model. All of the updates for this game will actually be free future content. So this potentially could be the cheapest that you can get Paralives, obviously until it like goes on sale in the future, but none of that has been confirmed. And then kind of looking towards the future, they've said Paralives comes out in 1 month. Here's what to expect from our early access release. So they're kind of setting expectations from the get-go. I think this very much comes for other life simulation players who probably aren't used to like an indie developer and also aren't used to this kind of early access period, because we've never really had that with the biggest title in the life simulation genre. But it releases on December the 8th in early access. It's when developers release a game before it's complete to receive feedback from players whilst it's still being shaped. And this is one of the main points that I truly wanted to talk about, because I've made a couple of videos on Paralives recently, and I feel like I'm always kind of fair in my critiques. I always say like, hey, I don't think this looks the best. This is done like really well, and I would like to see this maybe applied to other aspects of the game. Obviously, right now, I'm kind of basing that off like the trailers and the promotion that they have chosen to show. And that's not even looking into their Patreon. Like, I just do that from the public accessible stuff that I can see. And then some Patreons reply to me and are like, hey, this is available, this isn't available, this is the detail that they've gone into about this and like why this decision was made, etc. Which I do always appreciate you guys like pointing out something that I am incorrect on and correcting me on that and being like, hey, this isn't planned for right now, but hopefully within the future. And I think that's really, really important. But I have also seen a couple of people say that I'm being very harsh. I personally don't think I have been harsh. I know that the team is a smaller team. I know it's an indie developer. I have worked with indie developers. I have followed their work closely. I have played plenty of indie games, and I just want to remind everyone that the team are also like asking to receive feedback. I'm always going to say it. I always think that the criticism and the feedback should be given in a respectful way, and that is truly something that I always try to do. I'm never going to berate a team. If a game isn't a game that I enjoy, then I can just like stop playing that game. And I'm not saying that Paralives is going to be one of those games. I do think I'm going to get enjoyment out of it, but I also don't think that like giving critiques or giving feedback is a bad thing. And I do think that we should be encouraging people to do that in a respectful way. I've always done that with The Sims. I've always done that with a lot of other indie games that I've played, and I will be continuing to do it for Paralives, because this isn't going to be perfect for me, but I also don't expect it to be perfect for me. You know, it's a life simulation game. Like, there's a lot of different walks of life and everyone is going to have their own opinions, and I like it when all of those opinions are heard, and it's actually why I like the concept of early access. I would kind of always prefer games to be finished, but that mainly applies to like the AAA titles. There's not a big team of like playtesters, etc. for this game, most likely, so I'm happy as a player to kind of give my feedback and then help shape the game to what I want it to be and what we kind of expect it to be as big consumers of life simulation games. So you'll be able to manage your para's needs, wants, life goals, and career. These are all still being improved. Like I said, they are setting expectation. If you are going into this thinking that it's going to be a fully fleshed out life simulation game where the reactions are perfect and they're going to have like perfect townie lore and they're going to have this and they're going to have that, I want to set your expectation now. That is absolutely not going to be the case. I am slightly worried just personally about like how much content there is going to be. Obviously, from the get-go, if I feel like they have a good base and they have a good foundation to build on, that's a very hopeful thing, and I'm always gonna hope for this game to like grow and grow and grow. But I also kind of don't want to feel limited too much within early access, but that's just gonna kind of come to me when I actually start playing. You also probably most likely will encounter bugs and crashes. We have a para poking their head out of a bed and this para walking in the middle of the air. Good job, it is Christmas time. Kind of get away with it with just editing that to the snowman. You can make friends, find love, or be mean. Social life basics are there, but still lacking things like organizing social events and calling other paras. So it will be interesting to see how like weddings work. I wonder if they're just gonna have like a get married option and then the paras just kind of do it like then and there. And obviously you can't like plan a wedding or like parties and stuff. But I do think as long as like the big milestones are hit, and the big milestones are kind of hit well, and they've already stated that they have like gradual aging, I'm fairly sure, and that's already like a really good thing. For now, when a para is born, gets married, or dies, there isn't much to highlight. It's probably not going to focus on them too much, and they're not going to have like the reaction that maybe you expect from those big moments, but we do plan to add emotions and celebration to these. Designed a cozy town for you to discover, still lacking activities outside of some shops and collectibles to find. I mean, my little collectible heart is happy with that. Paramaker will let you fully customize and dress your characters. Some hairstyles and clothing are still missing. Again, that's what feedback is for. We as players can play this and then be like, hey, I personally feel like these hairstyles are missing, this representation is missing. And I do think that that is where feedback and early access is really strong, because you have a lot of voices giving you feedback, and it is a chance to take that and learn from it and better this game for the players who are playing it. Good selection of furniture and objects waiting for you in build mode. Wider variety will be coming out in future updates. Obviously, with Paralives as well, you kind of have the customization element where you can kind of stretch things and make things shorter and kind of mold the furniture. So I do think that that is still going to be entertaining enough within early access. Build mode is pretty flexible. Some important features still to come. Pools, basements, more flexible. Stair and roof tools, RIP to me. Maybe this isn't the game where I actually learn to build, especially if they don't have flexible stair and roof tools right now. At launch, modders will be able to add all kinds of custom content to the game that players can easily find and install using the Steam Workshop. So even though their build mode, their Paramaker is gonna be like potentially restrictive to some players, you also are going to have that user-generated content. Over 6 years of development, some features have been teased but have been put aside, won't be ready for launch. We prefer to let you know. So using the zipline, which was something that felt silly to me in the moment, but I kind of loved it because it kind of set it apart from like a lot of other simulation games. Like using a zipline to get around, what do you mean? But I think that is one that has been put on hold, as has the removing shoes automatically, which as a person living in the UK who does definitely just remove their shoes automatically, that one hurts just a little bit, but it's okay. It's not the most important feature of a life simulation game, and I can live without it for a few months. Within the next 2 years of early access, so confirming early access is Hopefully, fingers crossed, gonna last 2 years, but you never know. You know, game development can change day to day, never mind month to month, year to year. We plan to add content to every part of the game, as well as new features like cars, pets, and deeper parenting gameplay. Again, that's all going to be part of this player feedback. And when they do put something into the game within early access, we are going to have the opportunity to be like, hey, this is really, really good. I would like to see this maybe added to this system. Or, hey, this could use a couple of tweaks. Like, I'm not really liking how this feature works. Don't expect hundreds of hours of gameplay just yet, which I know every content creator who was planning on making content around this game, their heart just shattered. But we do aim to get there by adding more content and depth based on the feedback. So it will definitely be interesting to see how this goes, even after the first couple of months of early access, just to kind of see what the longevity is going to be. I think it's very important to have that foundation and a good foundation to work from, but early access does kind of scare me a little bit. And also, so do kind of the expectations from the community, I feel like. But I think everyone's gonna have kind of different expectations once we actually do get our hands on this game. I would say if any of this is kind of making you think oh, maybe I'll hold off a little bit, I also think that's absolutely fair. You can still consume content. I was the same way with Sims packs. I was always I don't like telling people where to spend their money. Everyone has different interests. Everyone has different areas of the game that they like to play more. Everyone has different financial statuses, and I was never going to be yeah, you should absolutely put your money down on this just because I like it, because you might not like it. So I would always suggest watch content. And I will be making content, and I know a lot of other people will be making content. And if there is specific content that you lot want to see from me regarding Paralives, especially in those first couple of months during early access and the release, I would love to hear it. I want to make the content that you lot want to see. Obviously, from the get-go, I'm going to be having a fair few Paramaker videos up, and then I'm going to be having probably wish lists of things that I would like to see. But I would also love it once this game does come out, or on the run up to this game. I would love for you lot to be hey, I want to see this explored. I want to know if this is currently worth it to me. Can you play this kind of a storyline or whatever it may be? And I am absolutely down to make that kind of content to help walk us through this release. But a small team of passionate life simulation fans, they know. It's the reason they're making this game, you know? They've grown up playing life simulation games. They want to make the life simulation game that they've always wanted to see. Life simulation teams are some of the most passionate teams that I have ever seen in video game design. Most video game teams are really, really passionate about the game that they're making, but you can tell this is a labor of love. And I do think that fans and lifelong fans of life simulations get it. But all future updates and expansions will be free. Grateful and excited to embark on this next chapter of Paralives and improve the game together based on your feedback. See, they even tripled down on it. They really said, we want your feedback. Don't come and harass us as developers, but my word, is your feedback important. Give us those critiques, give us that feedback. Let us know what you do like, let us know what you don't like, and we are so here for it. See you on December 8th for Paralives early access release on Steam. Now, I also know a couple of people have asked if it's going to be playable on the Steam Deck. I imagine it will be, but they haven't actually spoken about that, and I don't know how the Steam Deck works. I haven't got a Steam Deck myself, so I don't know if it's a port, if it's just the game and you can just cloud stream it. I really have no idea, and they haven't mentioned the Steam Deck just yet. They just mentioned Windows and Mac. I know a couple of people have asked about a Switch release. I don't know if that is something that is potentially planned in the future, but someone was hey, with the Switch 2 now having a mouse feature, that could be kind of cool. And I agree, but it kind of also, I guess, maybe depends on the input of the keyboard and like how that would actually work. Again, they haven't talked about cross-platform console whatsoever. The only two that are fully confirmed are working on Windows and it working on Mac. And you kind of have all of the specs that you need to know about currently. We have the price and we have the light structure of a 2 years early access. But like I said, that could change literally any day. Most important thing I think also to remember is that 2-hour gameplay. If you buy this game and it's not running well on your PC, refund it before you play 2 hours or else you're gonna lose out on your $39.99 USD. But I appreciate you all so much. I'm so sorry if I have been the delivery of bad news today and you unfortunately might not have the specs to run this. I hope that there is a way that you will be able to play this in the future because I know a lot of people are excited about this one. I'm excited about this one. Honestly, any like new life simulation games that I can get my hands on, I'm like, yeah, this is like my favorite genre of game. Of course, I'm gonna be excited for new ones coming up, seeing like what they can kind of do differently. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.